all of that was the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey. Good morning. How long do you think these inflationary pressures are going to last? Years? A decade? More?
Well, at least a year or two for sure. And when I've gone around the country talking to voters in the local elections, millions of pensioners and families are really worried about the cost of living. They're pretty annoyed that the Conservative government seems to be making it worse with tax rises. Boris Johnson doesn't seem to care, he doesn't seem to have a plan. And what Liberal Democrats are saying is we need a bold tax cut, a cut in VAT worth £600 a year. That would actually help smaller businesses struggling in the high street. And I think would be good for our economy.
But it also helps everybody and not necessarily those most in need.
Well, I think we do need a tax cut for everybody. We also think there should be targeted measures for those in need. So we've talked about increasing the warm home discount, which takes money off the energy bills of the poorest people directly. We've also talked about doubling the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. So you're right, we do need some targeted measures, but I do think we need a tax cut for everyone. The great thing about the Liberal Democrats' proposals for a VAT cut, it was also reduce the level of inflation, so it has a good economic benefit. And we're calling for the government to do it in the Queen's speech. They can do that in 2 weeks' time, and we're really annoyed that the Conservatives have no plan for this.
Why should a millionaire get the same tax cut as somebody on benefits?
Well, we're saying that people on benefits should get more. We're saying very clearly that the warm home discount, which, as I repeat, takes money directly off their energy bills, that should be more than doubled. And we're actually saying there's about 2.5 million people who get that. We think it should be extended to 7.5 million. So we absolutely are wanting to make sure there's more help to the poorest people, because you're right on that point.
But why not just focus it all on the poorest people? Because you're obviously giving, with a VAT cut, you're giving it to everybody.
Well, because the VAT tax cut does actually proportionally help the poorest more because they've got lower incomes. But more importantly than that, it also helps our economy, it helps growth, and it reduces inflation. So I think it's a really positive economics proposal that Liberal Democrats are making to help people who are struggling. And I'm alarmed that the government are doing the reverse. Conservatives are raising taxes. We've got some new figures which show that over the next decade, even taking account of Rishi Sunak's 1p tax cut in a year or two's time, overall, the average family is going to see their tax bill go up in the next decade by over £5,000. The Tories are now the high tax party.
Can I ask you about the culture at Westminster? There's a lot of coverage about it today in the papers for obvious reason. Have you seen women in Westminster, in the House of Commons, being mistreated?
Well, I've certainly heard about it, and I think it's absolutely shocking. This is unacceptable behaviour. We saw the misogyny.
What have you heard? Just what kind of stories?
Well, a lot of what's in the papers, to be frank.
But you're working in there day in, day out. So, I mean, have you come across it?
Most of what I've seen has been over in past years. I mean, currently I'm proud to lead a parliamentary party that's 2/3 women, and that has really made a change. I feel really positive change, and I'd like to see far more women coming into politics. And one of the reasons why we've got a stamp on this misogyny and sexism and the treatment of people like Angela Rayner, which was utterly appalling, is because it sends the wrong signal. We need to show to women and girls that if you come into politics, it's going to be an environment where you feel safe, you will feel respected, and we have to do far more. And what annoys me, we had the Me Too scandal just a few years ago. It looks like we've made no progress. We have got to go further and faster on that. And if we don't attract women and girls into politics, it will undermine our country. Our wonderful country needs the contribution of women and girls in politics.
Let me ask you about nuclear weapons. Given the situation in Russia, your position as the Liberal Democrats is to get rid of nuclear weapons around the world. What is it then?
Well, we believe in the deterrent, that Britain should have its own nuclear deterrent. We think that's really, really important. You're right to say that over the next few years, we would like to see multilateral disarmament. We want Russia to give up its nuclear weapons, China to give up its nuclear weapons, and so on. And that needs a positive response.
Over the next few years, I mean, given the situation in Russia, you really see yourselves sitting down with President Putin and convincing him to give up his nuclear weapons?
Well, regrettably not at the moment. You're right on that. But I hope Putin goes. I think this appalling attack on Ukraine, the Russians are defeated, and I hope then Putin goes, and maybe we can change the world. But at the moment, you're utterly right. It's very, very dangerous. I've been critical of
So your position doesn't hold, though, does it? Given the current situation, the world has changed, hasn't it? And
well, we're not talking about giving up our nuclear weapons.
Giving up the deterrence.
We're not talking about that. In fact,
but you are in the long run. That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, but in the long run, I hope Mr. Putin goes. But I'm not suggesting that we get rid of them any time soon.
You've told me in the next few years.
Well, negotiations over the next few years. I mean, if you look at what Liberal Democrats have been saying on defence, we've actually been critical of the government for cutting back on things like the army. The Conservative government wants to cut the army by 10,000 troops to the smallest number since pre-Napoleonic times. Liberal Democrats have actually supported them when they've helped the Ukrainian army. That is good. We really need to get behind the Ukrainians. But be under no doubt, we think the nuclear deterrent should stay. But in the long term, of course, it would make a safer world if we could get rid of all nuclear weapons. I mean, that just sounds, that's
Let me
common
ask you about the
sense.
story in the front page of the Mail on Sunday today. Is there a pact between Labour and the Lib Dems to get rid of the Tories in the by-elections ahead?
There isn't a pact. There's not going to be a pact.
You haven't made any pact?
No. In fact, if you look at what we're doing in these local elections, we're fighting Labour in many areas, in Hull, in Sunderland, in Sheffield, in Haringey, in Southwark. I could go on. This is pretty desperate from the Conservatives. And I'm not surprised, because lifelong Conservatives are switching away from them because they are really upset that we have a Prime Minister who's not decent to run our country.
Davey, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.